small but mighty group, and I'm grateful. Where two or more are gathered at Oakland Center, we eat. So if you got snacks, share. Okay. Luchan's usually bugging me for some crackers or something about right now on Wednesday nights, but I think we'll do. We'll do. So welcome. Our theme for this year is 2020 Spiritual Vision, and our monthly theme is Living as Compassionate Conduits. Ooh, boy, do we need to be in the groove now more than ever, right? So our Wednesday nights, we like doing in a satsang style, and that's what Luchan's going to do tonight. He's going to speak for about 20 minutes or so on the subject, and then he's going to open it up for a rich, informal, and intimate discussion amongst the village. And so we'll be looking forward to that. As we move on through the program tonight. When you're in Zoom in our meeting tonight, you will be muted, both your camera and your microphone. That will improve the quality of our transmission. And let's see, what else do I want to say before we get started here? Excellent, everything's in order. So all of our Zoom people are here, and we don't have any new timers, but if there was a new first timer here tonight, we welcome them. They may still show up. The evening is young. Tonight we have our practitioner, Luchan Baker. He's also our coordinator of the Youth and Family Ministry here at the center. He's also a ministerial student. So we're blessed to have him. And Luchan, I think you're speaking once a month these days. Is that right?
Yes.
Excellent. The more Luchan, the merrier. That's what I say. So excellent. So I know we've got you pretty well booked throughout the year, so it's going to be great. And I'll just let everybody know, next weekend is your grandmother, Reverend E. So she'll have to work really hard to follow you, right? Bless you, Luchan. Thank you for being with us tonight. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you, ask you to open us up with a prayer, and then we'll launch right into your discussion, okay?
Yes. And so now, in this moment, we continue in the consciousness and the perfection of God. I know that God is all there is. One breath, one heartbeat, one mind, one everything. It is always good. It is always perfect, regardless of appearances, regardless of opinions. It is all there is, and it is well. And so on this perfect day, we allow God to speak through all of us. We allow ourselves to be vessels, vessels of compassion, vessels of love, vessels of consciousness. We smile, we laugh, we cry. We have this God experience, and we know that it is all good. So I am giving thanks for that experience. I celebrate in that experience, knowing that this is God's day and it is magnificent. I release all thoughts, all expectations, knowing that all I need is to be present. For this and so much more, I am thankful, and so it is. Greetings, everyone. How's it going? We are talking about living as compassionate conduits, and the topic today is, what is God giving you? Yeah. I love to brag about growing up in Science of Mind. It's just, I really enjoy being that person who grew up in this philosophy. It's fun knowing that just everything, and I literally mean everything, was Science of Mind in my house. And I didn't really know how lucky I was until I went to my first church camp. And that's when it really hit me, like, okay, you know, grandmama didn't just make this up. This is a legit philosophy. Okay, cool. And church camp, Lamar, Revelations. I even did this one non-Science of Mind camp, but was still a very, very new thought-friendly camp called The Power of Hope in Seattle. And one of the biggest things I remember taking from The Power of Hope was anything that any of the campers wanted to try, wanted to do, wanted to express, they would always ask the group, hey, I choose to do this. Do you support me? And we would always answer, I support you. We'd put our hands up and it'd be beautiful. And the hardest part was always leaving camp and going back to the real world, where that wasn't always what was going on. You didn't always get that support. You didn't always get that love. You didn't always get people smiling at you and wanting to hug like we did all summer at the Power of Hope. We didn't get that. And much of my adult life is getting over the fact that most of daily life is not like that. Most of daily life is not at all like that. While we're talking about compassion, I really sit back and just think about what that means. What does it mean to be compassionate? Why is it important? What is compassion itself? Just because most of daily life is not like these camps I experienced does not mean that we have to then be like what most of life is not like. We don't have to conform and be part of that race consciousness. Yet that's what happens to many of us. I'm not going to say all because I can only speak for me. But I know that there have been times in my life where when I realized, okay, life isn't as compassionate as I'd like it to be. Maybe I need to be rough and mean like life can be at times. Maybe I need to be hard on the world because life is hard on me. And what I'm saying is we miss out on this beautiful experience when we harden ourselves like that. We're here to love. God is pure love. When a baby comes to the planet, all that child knows is love. The child doesn't say, oh, well, you're this color, I don't want to hug you, and oh, well, you're this gender, get away. A child doesn't do that. A child comes here with love on the mind. It is until the child learns things from the adults around it that it learns something different. We are here to love. That's what we are here to do. Yes. What is God giving you? Now, we're all students of science of mind here, so we know the answer to that question. What are you giving to the world? But to go deeper, we all know that there is no separation between yourself, God, and the rest of the world. So when I ask, what is God giving you? The only thing that I can come up with is, well, I get what I put in. So I have to remember that when I come across a situation where I feel one may be acting nasty toward me or what have you. I used to take that personal. I used to take it really personal when somebody was really condescending and nasty to me, and I felt I was obligated to go out of my way to then reciprocate that type of treatment. But now I know, and thank God for Oakland CSL for showing me this at such a young age, that we can only treat the world around us how we feel about ourselves. There's no way around it. How we feel about ourselves is how we treat. We can't even fake it. We can't even, you ever notice somebody who tries to pretend to be a nice person, but you just know like, this is hurting you. We can only be what we are. As soon as we start believing something different, as soon as we start acting this new thought that we believe out, we become someone else. Compassion. What better way to show that God is all there is? What better way than to be compassionate in this world that needs so much of it right now? In these times of intense growth, how are we treating ourselves? We have masks to wear and elections to get over and so many things we are dealing with. All of us are busy. All of us, I think, are more uncomfortable than we've ever been. And we all want compassion. We all want people to understand where we're coming from, but who is willing to be the first? Who's willing? We all want our stories heard. Who's willing to listen? How we treat ourselves is a reflection of how we will treat the world around us, and vice versa. There's no way around it. That's why I don't take it personal when I come across a person who's being mean and nasty. I get it. There's something going on in your life that you are acting out to the rest of the world, and you are crying for love, and you feel this is the best way you can get it. Science of mind is a philosophy for leaders. I'm not saying that you aren't a leader if you aren't science of mind. I'm not saying that if you are part of a different philosophy, you are not a leader. But what I am saying is that in order to fully grasp these concepts, you have to be a leader. Why am I saying this? Number one, we believe that there is no separation between you and God. We believe that there is nothing outside of yourself that you need to seek for happiness or anything else you are looking for. That's what we believe. That is the basics. And what I'm saying is that means that you are always who you are waiting on. You are. You want more love in the world, it starts with you. You want more prosperity and abundance in your life, it starts with your consciousness. We know so many stories of people who won the lottery for $1 gazillion and within a number of years they were broke again. It's a consciousness. So what I am saying is that this thing that we call science of mind, we know that in order to fully grasp it, you must know that you are the one in control of your life. And nothing outside of you needs to be worshiped. You are running the show. Being a leader is an empowering experience, but at times it is also a lonely one. Yeah. Being a leader is a lonely experience often. So much that even myself, I remember times where I acted outside of my character just because I wanted friends, just because I wanted people to like me. I acted this way. I pretended to have these views and everything because I was so dang lonely. Not only is being a leader a lonely experience, it's also a frightening one. To know at all times that you are your hero, you are the person you're waiting on, you are your own rescue and salvation, that is frightening, at least to me. Maybe y'all got it and y'all not worried, but me, that is a frightening experience. You mean I am who I've been waiting for this whole time? We are leaders, CSL. Yes, we are. Every last one of you are leaders. If you weren't, you wouldn't even be listening right now. You wouldn't be able to hear what I'm saying. We all want compassion. Who's ready to be the first to give it? In order to fully practice this thing we call compassion, we have to grasp the concept of forgiveness. Oh, there's that word again. You know, for me, forgiveness is kind of like a horror movie, you know, like I've had dreams about this thing, forgiveness, haunting me. And this recent one I've had, you know, I mean, this is a really scary dream for me. I'm climbing a ladder, and the ladder is just, you know, going to I don't know. It's just way up in the clouds. The ladder has no end, and I'm climbing it, and I'm in a good mood. But I notice that as I'm climbing, I'm getting pulled down by something. Something is tugging at me. And when I look down, it's all the grudges I've been holding, all the baggage, all the weight, and it's just pulling at me and tugging at me and trying to pull me off this ladder. And I have to decide what's more important. Me holding all these grudges that I've been holding my whole life so that I can prove a point that I was right, or letting them go so that I can continue elevating myself and going up. There is no compassion without forgiveness. I remember being a short, skinny kid in East Oakland. Thank God I was fast, because woo. And I was not a tough kid. I didn't like confrontation. I avoided it at all costs. And anytime confrontation met me, I would run for the hills and go crying back home. And I remember that moment in my life where I realized, hey, if you don't stand up for yourself, it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse and worse. And there's no way around this. Sometimes you just have to be okay with confrontation. And there was a time where something just so painful happened that I snapped, and I just became this person who met my compassion head on every time. And I remember the reaction I got from the community. It was almost like a pat on the back for being a confrontational person. And I liked the way I felt from being finally accepted by everyone. So what that told me subliminally was, this is the way I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be confrontational. I was supposed to be looking for it at all times and all that. And all I'm saying is that I've gone through many phases in life, and I'm thankful for that phase, because now I am able to have compassion in those situations where I feel those may be trying to be confrontational with me. You know, there are only two vibrations, and we know that's love and fear. And so when someone is coming from a place of confrontation and a place of nastiness and a place of, oh, let me try to bully you, and what they are really saying is, I am frightened. I am lonely. I am looking for love, and I don't know how to ask for it. Yes, I remember when I too thought that being mean and nasty was the way to show how powerful I was. I realize now that all I was doing was showing everybody the opposite. I was showing everybody how I felt about myself. I felt weak. So therefore, I felt if I can push everyone down, then I won't have to feel weak. But what I love about all of you is that we are science of mind, and we know better than that. We don't have to act that way. Am I willing to free myself so that I may fly? Or am I willing to fall to my demise, to hold on to these grudges just so I can prove a point? See, this is what I remember when I think about those of us who are hard on ourselves. And I say us because I can only speak from my own experience. When we don't want to let other people off the hook, it's only because we don't let ourselves off the hook. We're hard on ourselves. We judge ourselves. We beat ourselves up. And for that reason, when we see the opportunity to treat someone else that way, we jump on it. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about myself and what I've been through. What is a life? What's a world like where there is no compassion? Where we're all holding grudges, where we're all not letting things go? What kind of world is that? Do we really want that? I had somebody get mad and cuss me out because they came to me wanting to talk bad about Republicans and talk bad about Trump. And I said, well, what if I told you that it's time for us to see everything as God, even Trump? What if I said that everything is a reflection of ourselves, even that person who you dislike the most? And this person cussed me out. And I understand that because I remember the first time I heard those words, I wasn't ready either. I'm not about to see my bullies as an extension of myself. Look at my eye. Oh, hallelujah. Compassion is a beautiful thing. What if we've gone through what we've gone through? Those painful moments in our lives, just so we can then be compassionate for others. I have a story about when my son Ajamu was doing his homework. And just a little side note about my school experience. The school I was at was very quick to send me to the office if I just made a peep. I don't want to say it was a racial thing, but what I will say is I was one of very few Black kids at that school. I was definitely the only Black boy in that class. And there were other kids who would also be loud, but they would get their name on the board and get a whole bunch of checks by their name. Me, I would just get sent to the office to write. And it was very embarrassing when my father and my mother had to come pick me up and the teacher telling them, oh, you just can't be quiet and always a problem and all this. And my dad was very strict and very hard on me. And I thank him for that because he's definitely the reason why I finally flourished and got my act together. He's not the only reason, mom too, but dad putting his foot down was something that was good for me. And so what that told me was this is the way children are supposed to be taught. Not taking in consideration, maybe it was just me. Maybe that was my experience and that my son is not me. He is someone totally different. So when my son was starting to have difficulty with his homework and I was helping him, I got very frustrated. I got frustrated because it reminded me of the times where I was struggling with my homework and I didn't feel smart and I felt inadequate. And those feelings started coming up to the surface from dealing with my son and him not having the right answer with his math. And the more frustrated I got, the more I started raising my voice. And finally, my son started crying. And I said, why are you crying, son? And he looked me dead in the face and said, because I keep getting yelled at. That hurt me so much to see that my behavior was affecting my son in that way. And I vowed to never, ever yell at my son again, no matter how upset I get. And I have not broke that promise. What I'm saying is that that guilt, that anger, all of that I was holding on to, that shame and embarrassment from my childhood, I was bringing onto my son, someone who wasn't even there for any of that. A world without compassion, that is not a world I want to be a part of. We all make mistakes. One of the best pieces of advice that my mother gave me was don't put your faith in human beings because they're human beings and eventually they will disappoint you. They're gonna miss the assignment eventually. We all do. We don't talk about how many shots Michael Jordan missed, now do we? How many times Mike Tyson has been knocked out? Every human being has that part of them where they will drop the ball eventually. I'm telling all of you, I will disappoint you. I just will. I'm letting you know ahead of time. Please forgive me ahead of time for the times I may disappoint you. I want that forgiveness. But because I want that forgiveness, I have to be willing to give it as well. How many of us have moments in our life where we think back and we have that same embarrassment and that same hurt and that same shame and we want to be forgiven? How many of us have that? Another story I want to talk about because this is the first time I ever talked about this, and this was, I think, last December. I was coming back home from a Wednesday night, and I was not feeling well. I was really, really sick. I mean, to the point to where I felt the flu coming on. And the next day, I was so sick I could barely move, and you know, it was rough. And I remember my wife Sarah taking the baby to the car, and while I was in the shower, you know, I'm doubled over and just hurt, and just it was really brutal, y'all. And she comes back and says, "Babe, someone's in our car right now." And I did not want to believe her. I was just like, "No, why would somebody be in our car?" And she's like, "Yes, someone's in our car. They're in there right now. You need to go down there." Well, to all the men who like to see themselves as macho men, I didn't feel sick anymore. For some reason, I got a certain burst of energy, and I went down to the car, you know, sweats on, and I'm ready. And I look in the car, and lo and behold, there's this person sitting in the front seat, disrespecting the mess out of our car. He didn't even know I was there. So I open the door, and I startle him when he sees me. And I'm looking at how he has treated our car. There's crumbs everywhere, and I don't even want to talk about what I saw going on in that car. And I was very angry. I felt violated. I felt like I was being challenged. I felt like it was a personal attack on me. And then I looked into the face of this young man who I knew was a baby. And it was in that moment where I knew it was time for me to have compassion. It wasn't easy, but I did. Now, yes, I did let him know that I did not intend on him ever coming back. And I have my own ways of showing people that, but that's not the point. The main point is, and we know that we have news footage to back this up. If that young brother had been in someone else's car, he might not be alive no more today. And I felt that God brought me and this young man together for me to learn something about compassion and for him to get the lesson that he needed to get in that moment. That's not up to me to decide. That's between him and God. But in that moment, I reacted a lot differently than how I would have reacted when I was his age. That's what this world needs. Where many of us are celebrating because I'm just assuming if you go to CSL, you probably vote like how I do. And what I will say to that, while we're all celebrating this victory, is what are we going to do with this moment? Are we going to rub this victory in the faces of others and gloat and be mean and nasty about it? Or are we going to use this as a moment to let God and love and peace be what we lead with? We're leaders. We don't have to act like that. That's a weak person's game. Hate and fear and just being, that's the easy way out. That's how a child would react. We don't have to do that because we're leaders. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't finish the quote. Mom said, "Don't put your fear in humans, put your faith in God." Yes. Thank you, Sarah. So I'm looking at the time, and I don't want to do the typical Brother Luchan thing and continue talking over, even though I would love to do so. But I'm really, really interested in how the rest of us feel about compassion, and what are some ways that we can handle compassion. What are some moments in our lives where we experience compassion? Either we were on the other end of compassion, or we the ones giving it. I just want us to kind of talk about it and throw the ball around. But before we do that, I also want to show respect and love and appreciation for our veterans. I respect you. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for serving for us and keeping us safe. So yeah, compassion.
If you're interested in sharing, turn on your camera and you can wave, or you can use the participants button and raise your hand.
While we do that, I also want to just say something about something I've noticed as an American is that I don't feel that men in America are allowed to be vulnerable. And this is my experience. I'm not saying that this is the truth. I'm just saying from my experience, I don't feel that men are really allowed to be vulnerable in this country. You know, when a man laughs or expresses his fear in something, it seems to always be kind of a funny thing. And then I also hear in the same sentence ideas about gun control and the whole weapons ban. And I hear that, right? But let's just look at the full equation. If I'm a man who's experiencing a difficult time in my life and the whole world is telling me to man up and be a man and stop crying and get it together. I mean, those emotions that I'm feeling eventually have to come to the surface at some point. And I'm not saying that I would ever do something like grab a weapon and start harming random people. But when these things happen across the US, what I look at isn't, oh, well, we need to take the weapons from people. What I'm more looking at is, well, maybe if we had a more compassionate society, a society where we allowed men to be human, allowed men to cry and be themselves and to do that, maybe we wouldn't see such an enormous, alarming rate of these shootings and people getting harmed that way. That's all I'm saying. I've been angry enough to just, I've had that feeling where I just feel so frustrated that I was just like, I could punch somebody in the face right now, or I could break a window, or I could do this, and I didn't do it, but I've had that feeling. And this is where this idea of compassion really grips me. I saw a post from someone where it said, nobody cares, work harder. And I feel that our society really has that feeling and that mentality. Just kind of a get over it thing, but yet when we have our moment, our dark night of the soul, we want to be heard and we want to be nurtured. We can't want for anything for our so-called enemies that we wouldn't want for ourselves anyway. I mean, there's no connection, right? There's no disconnect. And when I look at, somebody who cuts me off in traffic or whatever, I have to really remember that part of compassion and say, hey, have you ever been in a rush somewhere? Have you ever cut somebody off, whether it was on purpose or not? I mean, have you done these things? I have to check myself and look. I'm sorry, Constance, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to comment a little bit about what you were saying about men and feelings.
Yes.
I mean, I don't disagree with you at all. And having lived in Canada for 35 years, it wasn't a whole lot different in the way men were raised there. The difference that I saw was that there was more of a sense of community or taking care of one another. Something, because we've got, in addition to that thing about men being strong, we've got this individualism thing. We've got to be individuals, and in the United States, and then you put that together with guns, and because I worked for 25 years with battered women in Canada, And so I talked to a lot of men um, who would call, and I ended up, when I first started, if someone had asked me how I would have felt about men, I would have said I would be really angry. I actually ended up with more compassion. Um, Not for all of them. Some of them were real, they were real damaged, and but the difference was is that they didn't have the same weapons to do the same damage, and that's what it comes down to. If you a gun and a fist are two different things, and they're both used in anger. So
Yes, I agree with that. I agree wholehearted with that. And the only thing I would say to that is when it comes to both guns and fists, I've had both in my possession. I've had both. I've never just randomly gone out and used either.
hmm
And that's not a pat on the back. That's me saying that though the world may not have been that compassionate toward me, I come from a family full of love and grace and forgiveness and compassion. And I was lucky enough to have a place to go and cry in somebody's arms and not feel like a weak person because of that. And so, yes, there will always be some people who just are violent. Like, I'm not saying that compassion will totally get rid of those things, but what I will say is that I think that if we had a more compassionate society, I think we'd see a lot less of those type of acts.
well, I totally agree with you, and I also the other thing that I found is because there was this belief that men who abused had grown up in abusive households and that they had learned that, and that was partially true. But what they didn't do was it took a long time to ask the other question of all the men who grew up in abusive households, how many of them chose to become abusers in their adult life? That was a very different answer, and because men did choose as boys, as little boys, to go on a different path, and they figured out how to do it, and I think that that's the other thing that we sometimes forget is that somewhere along the line you made that choice to be the man you are now. And yes, you came from a great family, you grew up in Science of Mind, but you made that choice. You could have rejected the whole thing and be a Wall Street broker or whatever.
Right? We're absolutely right. But I also feel like I had enough examples around me of that choice. I mean, I think it takes a really remarkable person to not really have any of those examples around them and to still be a compassionate person. I just, we're going to talk about being human. We do what we see around us. That's just, that's really what we do. We're creatures of habit. And I feel that being compassionate is very important because everything is connected. There is no separation between anything. Thank you, Constance, for your share too, by the way. Everything is connected, right? So me holding on to grudges and me being a nasty person is only making the fish tank, the ocean, the atmosphere that I'm in, it's only making it cloudy and disgusting because I'm putting those feelings, that consciousness out. So eventually that same energy that I'm putting out into the world I'm living in, I am going to be affected by it. It's that easy. So if I'm laughing at someone like, oh, look at him, he's a wimp, he's crying. I can't do anything but expect the same type of treatment when it's my turn, and we all get a turn. We know we all get a turn. And we all know that person who, I have this one friend in particular who I'm thinking about. This person loves saying, hey, I just know how to tell the truth. I don't know how to sugarcoat the truth. I don't know how to do that. I just know how to say it plain. And, okay, maybe that's true, but I feel like a lot of people who say that, what they're really saying is I enjoy being mean to people because it makes me feel strong and powerful. And so I pretend like the truth is a way for me to just bop people upside the head. Because we all know that same person who's saying that, as soon as it's their turn to hear the truth, it's all, well, yeah, yeah, we know nobody's perfect, and oh well, why am I being picked on? And okay, but wait a minute, just a second ago, you didn't know anything about sugarcoating the truth. We all want compassion. I mean, right now we're seeing that the person who is soon to no longer be the president having a fit, saying, "Oh, well, we need a recount," and "Oh, I'm suing everybody." And okay, but what about all this about? We just saw you have a totally different energy when it came to other stuff. Yes, thank you, Tanya. When I remember to be grateful, somehow it cultivates compassion within me. Yes, yes. That is the voice of God right there. Is seeing everyone we come in contact with as an extension of ourselves. And if I love myself, then I love this person in front of me, regardless of how they're acting, because I know we are not our actions. We aren't. We came here as a spiritual being to have a human experience, and we are all God beings, regardless of our actions. And that is what I have to remember when I feel like someone's quote unquote picking on me. You're not picking on me. You're only expressing how you feel about yourself. And what I get to do is move my ego out of the way and have grace and compassion for you. I have to remember to do that. Another thing we have to remember is this thing called love. If here's where love becomes, what is faith if it's not challenged? Faith is a muscle, right? And if we want that faith muscle to be strong, we have to put some weight on it every now and then. And so when the faith muscle gets challenged, I just like to ask myself, okay, why do we throw this word diversity around? And why is it important? And so when I come across somebody who does not think like me, does not behave like me, does not have the same type of consciousness that I have, that's where I get to remember compassion. Do I love you if you're only acting how I feel you should be acting? Or do I love you, period? That's what I have to remember when I come across those moments where I feel like someone's being nasty toward me and trying to antagonize me. And that's why I love Paul so much, because he's giving me that look where he's giving me compassion for speaking way longer than I should be. So I
No,
appreciate Paul's compassion.
no, for once I'm gonna not wait till the end and share something that I think might be helpful. So I'm gonna release it in chat, and it's a line from Vice President Biden's acceptance of his election. He gave a great speech set up by Kamala, so much history, but he said one line in there that I'm gonna release in the chat for us to consider tonight, and then I'm gonna shift a word in place of another word, and I think you'll find I found it beneficial, so I'm hoping it will with everybody else. Let's see, there it is. He said, "We lead not by the example of our power, but by the power of our example." What if we were to say, we lead not by the example of our compassion, but by the power of our compassion?
Yes.
That whole entire speech was magnificent. Everything that Kamala said was magnificent. But this one line made me march to a new tune, pointed me in a new direction of thought, that, oh, it is bigger than just me. However, it begins with me. Like you started out when you started out talking. You said, I quote, because I write your words down sometimes, We all want compassion, but who's going to be the first one to give it?
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
It makes me think of times in my life where holding grudges was a hobby of mine.
Yeah.
And after years and years of holding those grudges, I remember looking up and realizing I built a jail for myself. And I didn't have anybody to hang out with. I didn't have anybody to call and check on me. I didn't have any. I pretty much put myself in jail by holding on to those grudges and no, I'm right. What you did was wrong. And that was the example of my compassion. There was none. So therefore I felt powerless.
In
But
your
where I'm
attempt,
from,
in your attempt to be powerful.
yes, yes. And that's what I mean. Okay, so where I'm from, you know, that there's always this word we throw around and, you know, oh, he's hard. And hard doesn't necessarily mean like, it doesn't always have to mean gangster or anything like that. Hard is just, you know, someone who has a warrior spirit, you know, and it can mean anything. You see LeBron, he cross somebody over and then dunk on him, like, oh, he was hard for that. And so we throw that word around a lot. And one of my favorite MCs from Oakland, who goes by the name of Casual, had a line where he said, I'm dangerous like stepping on a gangster's shoes. Now, if you knew what was going on in Oakland at that time, you would know what that line meant. There were a lot of people who ended up in bad situations from stepping on the wrong person's shoes accidentally. But then he clears it up by saying a real boss would be like, man, I got plenty of those. And that is the part I'm talking about. When you feel powerful, you don't allow anyone else's stuff to even rain on your parade like that. You have compassion. There is nothing more gangster, nothing more hard than being a compassionate being. When someone can go out of their way to crap on your parade and you smile at them and say, bless you, and you continue on with your life, there is nothing more gangster than that. When you feel like you have to take it there all the time and, oh, I can't let that slide. I'm sorry, that is a weak move. Yes, I do agree that on some level, you do have to stand your ground and show, look, there's consequences to your disrespect of me. I agree, but why, especially Americans, are we so quick to be like, I'm going there? Paul, I'm gonna tell you something. I remember, and I'm not gonna tell you how long ago, I was on my way to church. And while I was on my way to church, I'm not going to say which church either. Some people cut me off, Paul. They cut me off to where I had to slam on my brakes. And I needed brakes at this time because my brakes were grinding. So I'm even more mad because now you done made me grind my old brakes. And I got very angry. And I started expressing to this person in the car how angry they made me for making me slam on my brakes. And then there was a red light, which made me happy because I'm like, oh, a red light. Now I get to really show you how mad I am. And when I pulled up to the red light, they were doing this. Everyone in the car had their hands clasped at me, telling me, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I did not mean to cut you. Do you know how that disarmed me? That made me so weak. I was so ready to, oh, I can't yell all
Don't you
kind of.
just hate it? It just ruined your day.
It broke me down. It broke me down. I can't, what can I do to that? We don't even realize that forgiveness isn't letting the other person off the hook. It's letting ourselves off the hook. It's saying, look, I am over this. You can have it. That's what forgiveness is. There is nothing more gangster than that. And I love that. Compassionate people those are the most powerful people on the planet.
I agree.
What closer to God can you be than a compassionate being? Only a weak person needs to keep score and go out and lash out on people and, oh, I got to even the score. And come on now, that's childish. Are we still doing that? Oh, I got to hit you back. Mama said I have to hit you back. Are we really living that way? You're awesome and you have awesome stuff to do. Let that go. Knowing how godly we are and knowing how amazing we are is frightening. And oftentimes, little side dramas to distract us from the work we have to do is what we can fall into. It's very easy. I've done it a million times. I've done it a million times. You think I want to, I was trying to be a rapper. You think I'm trying to talk about God and no, it frightens me. Frightens me to hear the voice of God at such a young age. And that's not me tooting my horn. This is my life. I didn't want that. And I was afraid. And so what better way to not have to deal with that than to get in these individual dramas I'm coming across? A real player, now if we're gonna talk players, a real player doesn't trip when he sees somebody talking to his lady. He doesn't trip because he's confident. All that, hey, stay away from my girl, and oh, I'll punch you in the face. And we know what's really going on. You've already showed us your cards, homie. Because if you were really confident, you would laugh at that. Oh, yeah, man, she is beautiful. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's my lady. A lot of people like talking to her. You know, that's what a player would do. And when I say player, just, I know that we're intelligent enough to know how to not just hear the word and to hear the context. Player is somebody who is pushing out his God self. A player hater is somebody who lives in fear of someone else's light. A player is somebody who has their God self expressed. When you step into the room, we see that you are illuminating the room with your godliness, unapologetically. If I see your light and I feel threatened by it, and I'm actively showing you I feel threatened by it, now I am a hater. Look at Paul. Everybody's laughing at his jokes, and he's handsome, and he dresses well, and he thinks he's all that. And Paul, please. Everybody else likes Paul, but I'm not tripping off Paul. I'm gonna go tell Paul how I'm not tripping off him. We know what you're up to, homie. You're a hater. And you don't have to be that way, because if you knew how awesome you were, you would be shining with Paul doing something awesome. This is what I mean by compassion, but see, I've been on both sides of that. So now when I see someone acting like a hater, I don't label them as a hater. I just sit there and realize, okay, this person is living in fear, and I need to have compassion for them because I know that feeling of living in fear of myself and seeing everyone else's light as a threat to my own and feeling like I need to smash on everyone else's light in order for me to shine. I know that feeling. And so instead of charging someone being a hater, I just simply smile and give them love. And I don't do it every time. I'm human just like you. There are times where I get angry. I'm only saying this so that when I start acting out of pocket, y'all can check me about it. There is nothing more gangster than being compassionate. I don't know any other way to say it. Hate and holding grudges is a weak person's game. It just is. Some of the real tough guys I know, I mean real tough guys, right? The dudes who got golden glove titles and black belts and all different type of martial arts. And I'm talking about dudes who I've seen enforce their respect on the streets are some of the most polite and respectful people you will ever meet. Yes, ma'am, and yes, sirs, and all of that. I've seen these people. This is how they operate. They don't feel the need to be disrespectful to feel tough. Let's let love be the way we live our life. Love is a courageous way to live. When's the last time, I ask myself this, when's the last time I started a conversation with someone I didn't know? When's the last time I talked to somebody I wouldn't normally talk to? When's the last time I saw someone exercising their joy in a way that I wouldn't, and I actually tried to sit back and understand that? When's the last time I've done that? I don't want to keep being comfortable doing the same stuff. I want to learn. I want to grow. And there's no way for me to grow without compassion. Hate and holding grudges stunts our growth. It just does. It does, no matter how just we feel in it. And what a great example than to talk about that on Veterans Day. I have to say, you know, I am pro-peace. I'm not saying I'm anti-war. I'm saying I'm pro-peace. And anybody willing to fight and put their life on the line for what they believe is somebody I have to respect. This is coming from somebody who's worn his dashikis and put his fist up and have had conflicting feelings about the country that I was born in. When it comes to the truth, I will always respect our troops, always. I see those eyes looking around, Paul. How you feeling? When you have true strength, you don't need to impose power. Thank you, Zoe. And that's a tough guy who said that, so you know you have to believe it.
That's the big Zoe, man. He's behind the scenes tonight.
I mean, to be honest, I'm only nice to Zoe because I don't want no problems with him, you know?
See, that's being
I wasn't afraid of him.
Being compassionate to yourself.
Exactly. It's all fake, Zoe. All fake. Everything, Zoe. It's all fake, dude. If I wasn't afraid of you, I'd be a different person.
Oh, Luchan, thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you.
Let's say thank you, everybody. Those that are left here in the trench with us on the Wednesday night. Thank you, Luchan. As always, I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you all for taking time out of your day. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So I'm going to run through some quick announcements, things you might find. Hi, Vicki. How are you?
Thank you.
I'm going to run through some quick announcements, and then we'll wrap and open everything up so we can say goodnight. So this Sunday is Reverend Sally will be speaking on how engaged. My notes just disappeared. How engaged is God as us? It continues our theme on living as compassionate conduits. It's a Sunday meditation at 10, service at 10:30. And like I said earlier, next Wednesday is Reverend Eloise Oliver speaking on the same subject. And meditation is at 6:30 and the service is at 7. This is the last week to sign up for small groups, both in person and by Zoom. These small spiritual groups are designed to explore the monthly themes and readings and to get to know other villagers. Go to the events page of our website to learn more and to fill out a very short survey about your interest for either type of group. Our Spirit Treasure Bookstore is planning the annual Plaid Holiday Clearance Sale in the courtyard, socially distanced and following all the COVID procedures. So for you bookstore lovers that have been wanting to do something safely, here's your chance. This will be Friday through Sunday, November 27th, 28th, and 29th. The annual Plaid holiday is like Black Friday for the big people. It was Plaid Friday, now they make it Plaid Weekend. Plaid is for local businesses. So where you see the Plaid Friday stuff, it's a local business trying to do a Black Friday kind of thing. Linda Wyman is looking for volunteers to help set up the merchandise on the patio and assist the shoppers. If you pride yourself on your common sense, this is for you. Call Linda at the contact Linda at bookstore@oaklandcsl.org. I'm sure you can ask Constance too if you need to. If you want to receive our newsletter, I think you're all doing that. It's on the homepage. Submit your email address. Also, check out our Facebook group as well as our YouTube channel. Everything is at oaklandcsl.org, our webpage, where you can see videos and register for classes and check on all these events. I want to thank our Zoom team tonight, Constance and Peter Gum up in Portland, and Alice Herndon right here in Oakland, and Zoe DeMuro. Did I forget anybody? I don't think so, but y'all great. Thank you so much for taking care of us. I'm going to take a minute to just pass the digital offering plate around us, and knowing that if you're so inclined to donate tonight, hold that up into your heart, and repeat with me: joyously I give, with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive. And if you're so inclined to do so tonight or at any time, it's on our website where everything else resides, but that donate button's right at the top. Because as Reverend E says, it takes money to make this village move, Paul. Push it. So push the donate button and you can fill out the form. It's safe, it's easy, and we're very grateful for all of your contributions, everyone. And with that in mind, Luchan, if you could close us out in a prayer. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It's just lovely to have you here with us on Wednesday night. Luchan, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll open up our microphones and cameras and say good night.
There is one life, and that life is God's life. That life is my life. That life is everyone in this chat, everyone outside this chat. And so in this perfect life of God, I am speaking abundance and love and prosperity and unconditional happiness, all these things and so much more, because God is just that abundant. I know that this continues throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the rest of the year, for God is the only power in our lives. And so I give thanks and celebrate that. I celebrate knowing my word is law and must be manifested. And I release free of doubt, free of worry, free of concern. I release knowing that God has got it and all is well. And so it is.